Ahoy hoy, I'm Planet Walk, and about a week ago I made a video on Dyer, someone who thinks that the Illuminati is real, and he has his top 10 reasons for why he thinks that. Now, there were quite a few people who disagreed with me that came to that video, mostly commenting on my arms because apparently that's a win, I guess. And in a live stream, Jay decided to make a few comments about me. The problem is when you comment on someone to try and get cheap gotchas, you gotta make sure that you don't say anything that might allow the other person to make cheap gotchas. So get your tinfoil hats ready, put on some heart-shaped glasses to look like your favourite gay icon Illuminati member, whether that be Elton John or Will Wood. So let's listen to what Dyer has to say. And by the way, Will Wood isn't actually gay, that was a joke. I don't know what that was. I'm not going to fault him for it because it was quite funny just seeing someone do something random like that. But I do hope that that justifies the intermittent skeleton appreciation day throughout this video.
No matter how many times or for how many years I do the same things, people will just never understand. And I've learned to accept it with adult level acceptance.
Okay, so I actually get what he's saying here. People disagree with me all the time, whether this be on Ken Wheeler, Bill Gaty, or even Dyer. So you do need to accept the fact that not everyone is going to agree with you. So that's a good start. But you also need to, listen to criticisms when people do criticize you. So what criticisms does Jay have for me?
And I got debunked. So it's basically today is retirement from the internet day.
Wouldn't it be change your mind day rather than retire from the internet day? I mean, that's kind of the point of debunking someone, is to try and change people's minds, is it not?
No, I didn't mean to do that. First of all, shout out to the debunker boy. This boy had some roid rage right here, as you can see.
I don't remember getting angry in that video, although it might just be that I'm a little bit more expressive than what he's used to. Although I do like this theme that I'm seeing, where people just try to attribute someone being triggered to try and discredit their argument, even if the person is relatively calm and collected. Like, I could say that Dyer is just triggered by me talking about him, and that holds about as much water as him saying that I have roid rage.
Debunking my videos, and he says,
"This man thinks that he can prove the Illuminati."
And then he goes on for just nonsense. It's literally the incarnation of a Reddit man. This is Reddit incarnate, literally.
Ah, yes, because the only people ever known to debunk things are on Reddit. It hasn't been going on YouTube for way more than 10 years. And it definitely doesn't happen outside of the internet with science, because science is pretty much just debunking things. You know, when Friedrich von Hoven debunked homeopathy, all the homeopaths just said, "You're a Reddit man," and then he was epically owned and wrecked.
And the tinfoil hat, come on, dude, that's not even clever or funny. I mean, I put on a tinfoil hat in a video 15 years ago, my first YouTube video. You're like 15 years behind, dude.
You know, my tinfoil hat is in every video, and I do have to occasionally put it on just to justify having it there.
And then he literally says in his video that, y'all can hear me, right? Y'all can hear me, right? That soy doesn't make you effeminate or soy.
And I would be correct on the matter because, firstly, you don't turn into soy just by eating soy. I don't know what that means, but he said it. And secondly, it does not make you effeminate. The reason why people think that it does make you effeminate is due to it containing phytoestrogen. And phytoestrogen is not the same thing as estrogen. Yes, these two chemicals may look similar, but they are not the same chemical. It's much like how sodium chloride is made up of sodium and chlorine, two things that are rather toxic to people, but together they're very different.
Dude, your elbows are perpendicular, bro. Are you serious? Arms are not supposed to be 90% right angles. Literally. You over here you could go to drafting class and you don't even need any equipment. You could just like draw it with your arm, bro. So, okay, yeah, you're right. Soy does not make a man a soy man. Okay.
You know, I never actually said in that video whether I consume soy or not. So you're just assuming that based on me saying that soy doesn't make you effeminate. You know, I don't actually know when the last time I consumed soy was. So trying to use me as an anecdote for why people shouldn't consume soy is not a good idea. Maybe try using things like research rather than anecdotes.
And then ironically, even the algorithm was trying to help this dude out, right? The algorithm was like,
Whoa, dude. This mofo's got perpendicular arms, 90-degree angle arms, must help out. Recommend T-boosting, recommend testosterone boosting.
see the ad there? Testosterone booster.
Jay, this isn't the win that you think it is. I would stop now if I were you, rather than continuing, because you are going to make a fool out of yourself.
Look, you don't. So if you do want to be a debunker man like this boy, then do not get chalk. Do not get the testosterone boosting chalk that I take, because although I am not Arnold level, I'm Arnold level when it comes to being Mr. World, but I'm not Arnold level when it comes to being beefed up. Okay, so I'm not beefy, but I'm a beautiful e-celebrity man.
You know, that is absolutely hilarious to me, because I am not the cis guy that's on HRT at the moment. You are the cis guy that's on HRT, Jay. And it gets even funnier because I did a blood test a while back, and things might have changed since then, but it turns out that I have high testosterone for a guy. It says here that my testosterone was 29.2 nanomoles per litre, and the average range is 7 to 26 nanomoles. I know, it's hard to believe that I have high testosterone when I look like I'd collapse from lifting up a bag of chips. But the reality is that you don't get muscles if you don't put in the work to get muscles. And I don't always have the motivation to try and get muscles. Testosterone isn't a magic thing that just because you have more of it, you're suddenly going to get stronger. No, if you want to get stronger, you gotta put in effort to actually get stronger. But this whole thing gets even funnier because he got an ad for testosterone boosters on my video. Who do you think that says more about? Me or him? The reason why I say that is because ads aren't based on the people in the video. It's trying to sell the people watching the video something. So clearly it had identified Jay as someone who would buy testosterone boosters, and so was trying to sell him that product. So all this is very hilarious to me. It seems like Jay is insecure in his masculinity and takes testosterone to make up for that. And to Jay, the only reason why you could look feminine is because you have a lack of testosterone, not because you have too much testosterone like I do. That's probably why I'm so skinny, to be honest. Well, that and lack of working out. Now, there's nothing wrong with taking testosterone, but there's also nothing wrong with having a little bit more self-awareness. So yeah, your attempt at a gotcha just fails because you try to use me, an anecdote, as an example for why soy is bad, and then you try and say that I need more testosterone despite having high testosterone. So yeah, soy is not bad for you. Actually, that's not as bad as I thought it would be. To cut down on my silhouette, my favorite foods are smoking hot. Now, people are saying that I should debate Jay, and that is something that I will do, but under a few conditions. The first is that we have a neutral moderator, and I know a few platforms that do have moderators that we could debate on, whether that be Modern Day Debate or The Toon Show. My second condition is before we debate, I want Jay to respond to one or more of my points. The points that he responds to will be the points that we'll talk about in the debate. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because I don't want to get there and then Jay brings up a point that I've never heard of and says that it proves him right. I'd like to actually be able to do some research before the debate so that I'm not unprepared for it. Now, if Jay decides to respond to my points, I don't mind how he does it, just as long as he does it, and just as long as he's not trying to get cheap gotchas. So the whole soy thing that he said, that doesn't count. So those are my conditions for if Jay wants to debate me, and I think they're quite reasonable, to be honest. But anyway, let's get into the second part of why Jay thinks that the Illuminati is real. Gonna need to put this on to... All nightmares start as dreams, and I hear my subconscious screaming.
Number 4. Oh, by the way, I meant on the number 3. Also, don't forget the promotion of cannibalism, right? many academics saying, oh, it's time to eat people.
So which academics are saying that we need to eat people? Because most academics that I know of say that we need to move to a more plant-based lifestyle rather than, eating meat.
Soylent Green, made from people, literally here. That to me suggests coordination.
So even if you're right that academics are saying that we need to eat people, that does not then follow that the Illuminati exists.
Number 4, all areas of life are becoming centralized and standardized. And through convenience, it's being sold to people. We oftentimes forget about the power of the convenience aspect of things.
Oh, is he going to talk about how the automotive industry wanted people to drive cars and so therefore made cities more amicable to cars, so therefore cars were the convenient way to get around the city? And not only did cars become the more convenient way to get around cities, you had to have a car to get around cities. I do actually wonder what Jay thinks of that, but that doesn't prove that the Illuminati is real. It just means that people that want to sell a product will do things in order to make that product sell better. But to actually address the point, yes, people like convenience. If you make something more convenient, people are just going to flock to that because they like it. And standardizing things doesn't mean that the Illuminati exists. I mean, do you think that the Illuminati is behind USB-C being adopted by everything?
Because the convenience is what actually lets us fool ourselves into thinking that, oh, it's going to be so much easier when we have, the tech utopia that's coming. And so everybody sort of opts into it, right? The opting in. And then we've seen like Bilderberg and these kind of places meet recently to talk about in the past few years the promotion of body modification and wearables, right?
So I can understand why people might not like the idea of body modification, at least in a technological sense, because that can pose some security risks. But wearables, we've been doing wearables for ages. What do you think a watch is?
Again, also comes up in Kurth Barker's book on Luciferianism, right? Bodily modification being a big part of this overall plan. So that was written, 6 years ago, and he was spot on as to where things would go.
Body modification is something that was thought of ages ago, and it depends what you mean by body modification. Plastic surgery is something that has been around for a very long time. That is a type of body modification. Prosthetics are also a thing that have been used for ages, which is, again, body modification. So yeah, you might want to be a little bit more specific and say specifically technological body modification, which again is not a new idea. It's not something that was thought up 6 years ago. It's been an idea much longer than that.
So all areas becoming centralized and standardized: education, banking, electronic banking, the culture, the internet, and ultimately Internet of Things, again, all being standardized and centralized. And the idea that, we just hand all this over to robots to run everything.
Some of those things I can really understand being standardized, especially, education or the internet. If I want to connect to YouTube, it's not going to help if all the different routers and everything are operating under different standards. It'd make it very difficult for the internet to function if certain routers could not talk to each other because of different standards. This is not something that you want in the internet. Now, I will admit, it is okay to have different standards like TCP and UDP, as long as everybody understands those standards. And the reason why it's good for education to be standard is let's say you have two different high schools. One high school teaches 1 + 1 = 1, and to graduate, you just have to know that. And another high school teaches what we normally get taught, right? If you're an employer and you're seeing two people that have graduated high school, you would expect them to know the same things, or at least have a similar amount of knowledge in the subjects that they have taken. If it turns out that they have wildly different ideas because the education standard was different, then it would make employers' jobs way more difficult than they have to be. And he talks about us standardizing things so that we can hand control over to the robots. That's not necessarily what's happening here. And also handing control of things over to the robots, that's a very vague and nebulous statement. Because what it sounds like is that the President of the United States will eventually be a robot, but what it would be more like in reality is that AI would be used to help inform decisions.
Right, the robots will check you out at McDonald's, the robots will check you out at Walmart, wherever. Little robot trash cans will roll around policing you and telling you, barking orders at you. If you get attacked, like this little trash can is going to somehow arrest your attacker.
Yeah, that's not really robots controlling everything. That's more robots getting given tasks to do, and because they're robots, we've programmed them to complete these tasks.
Bones, 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 let me see your bones. Well, I don't want to know if the feeling follows home.
Number 3, they write in their own books their plans. So if we go and we read 40 books from the global elite from the past century, which we did in the last few years. If you follow Jay's analysis, we've done lectures on about 40 of those now, maybe more. The writings of the top elite, they say ahead of time what they want to do, what they're going to do, and what they plan to bring. And they trust that people are not going to investigate or read their books because they're written for the policymaking class. They're not written for Joe Schmo.
That doesn't prove that the Illuminati exists. That just says, okay, here's the policies that should be implemented. We should implement them. I mean, this is something that has been done for ages. People have identified a problem that needs to be solved and said, hey, maybe we should implement policy A or policy B to solve this problem. And this may be hard to believe, but if you have more money, people are more likely to listen to you. So of course, people that are rich publish books with policy recommendations, and because they're rich, their message gets out to a lot more people and makes it more likely that those policy recommendations will be picked up by politicians. You don't need a conspiracy theory to explain that.
All love starts as a scheme, so wake me up, I'm tired of sleeping.
Number 2, the top companies and families in the world in a very small conglomerates of shareholders are actually known through different studies to have a very powerful controlling influence on the global economy. There was a TED Talk that was given some years ago from I think it was a Swedish study. I'll try to put the image up here if I can find it. That actually touched on this. That there was definitive peer-reviewed proof of a controlling network of shareholders and corporations that could really basically influence the entire world economy.
So again, this isn't very surprising. If you have a lot of money, you obviously have a lot of control over the economy because the economy is kind of based around money. And if you're a company with a lot of money and you start producing, let's say you start producing a specific type of product and that product needs a different material, then the chances are that the material that you need is going to become more valuable. Obviously, there are other ways in which money can influence the economy, but that is just one basic way that I thought of off the top of my head. You don't need a conspiracy theory to explain that money can influence the economy. It's a given.
And if we know about the Federal Reserve banks and how the big families actually have the controlling shares in the big Federal Reserve banks in the U.S., if you know about the history of the Bank for International Settlements, which I've done entire talks on in my Quigley series, then you know that also suggests Illuminate Confirm.
Elon Musk recently bought 9% of Twitter because he has a lot of money. If your family has a lot of money, then it can afford to buy things like that. That is why rich families can have control of things like banks. Again, you don't need a conspiracy theory in order to explain this.
All nightmares start as dreams.
And number one proof. The Illuminate Confirm. There's a tie for number 1. There's 2 that are going to be tie for Illuminate Confirm being proven.
Okay, this better be really good.
Actually, there's 3.
You don't have to make these lists in order of how compelling they are. You can just say, oh, here's 10 reasons and give them in any random order, right?
So here's the top 3, smushed into number 1. Jeff Stein-Effrey, obviously, he makes the list for proof of Illuminate Confirm. Everybody knows the story. We don't know exactly what happened to him, right? That's up for everybody's speculation debate. But obviously what the official story says is not true.
So yeah, with Jeffrey, things are definitely suspicious there. And you can understand why some people might want him to be Robloxed. Especially seeing as he probably had a lot of incriminating evidence. I mean, the guy knew quite a few high-profile people. And I do think that this is probably by design, because if you're someone like Jeffrey, then it really helps if you have high-profile people who can help you out. So I think this is more the case of Jeffrey wanting to have a whole lot of friends to back him up, just in case something went wrong, rather than it being something to do with an Illuminati. If you want someone to help protect your secret, then someone like Donald Trump will be better at that than Trevor from the garden shop.
Number 2, tied within the sphere of number 1, number 2 is MK Ultra being admitted by mainstream media to be real, and all of the nasty, dirty, crazy stuff is actually true.
So yes, MK Ultra was a thing that they tried. However, that's more to do with the US government seeing what people could do, or what they could do to people, rather than an Illuminati existing. All you need for MK Ultra to happen is the CIA doing what they did. You don't need to explain that with the Illuminati. It is very much like saying that because people landed on the moon, that proves the Illuminati. It's like, no, you just need NASA to explain that.
And then the other one, tied with those, number 1, is the Bible itself. The Bible presents throughout history a spiritual conspiracy.
You know, for that to hold, you have to prove that the Bible is true first. If you're someone like me who doesn't believe in the Bible, then that is not good evidence. It'd be like saying, this is the shape of the Earth, and it proves the Illuminati. You would have to prove that the Earth is flat first. And in fact, if you are a flat earther, you'd say that, you know, flat Earth does prove the Illuminati.
Satan is at the head of a group, namely the kingdom of Satan, the kingdom of man, that is man in rebellion against God, right? Tower of Babel, we saw this. Throughout the Old Testament, the Israelites are seduced into these crazy practices of the peoples around them. At the head of this inverted pyramid, or this evil pyramid, is a spiritual being, right? The head of all wickedness and evil, Satan himself.
So 2 things. Firstly, I'd need to believe in Satan to actually believe that he's the head of the Illuminati, because if you don't believe in Satan, then obviously you don't believe that he's the head of the Illuminati. And the second thing is, even if you manage to convince me that Satan exists, I wouldn't be convinced that he's the bad guy in all this. Although, who knows, maybe the Illuminati is actually good. They do want things to be convenient after all. Okay, so that is the video. I do have to say that is not very good evidence for the Illuminati, if I say so myself. The video seems to be one of those things which, if you believe that the Illuminati is real, then you'll probably agree with the video. But if you don't believe that the Illuminati is real, then you're probably not going to agree with it. To me, a lot of the premises seem to be the Illuminati is real and this is why this is happening, and this proves that the Illuminati is real. But for most of them, there is an alternative explanation that you don't need a shadowy group of people to explain. So I'm going to stick with Occam's razor here. The explanation that requires the fewest unnecessary assumptions is probably the most correct explanation.
Bones, 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 I can see my bones. Well, I don't wanna know if the feeling follows home.
But anyway, with that, leave a like and subscribe if you liked this video. Leave a comment letting me know what you'd like me to make videos on in the future. Now, due to me covering Skeleton Appreciation Day by Will Wood, this video may have been copyright claimed. And by the way, I do understand the irony of me, someone who's really skinny, covering Skeleton Appreciation Day. That irony does not escape me. Why do you think I chose that song in particular? But if you do want to watch the full cover of that song, I have uploaded a full version for my channel members and patrons to watch. But with that, a big shout out to my $20 or more patrons. Hugh Jarsz, M.C.Nutkin, SHaKie, Wolfie, Morrie, Graymore Ghost, KidVicious, Sacha Campbell, and Militant Agnostic. If you want to support me financially, you can do so on Patreon. A link should appear somewhere on the screen soon. But anyway, I will see you in the next video. Between you and me, thank you for watching.
Da 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 da.